Genesis chapter 2. The Garden of Eden and pure awareness, before the forbidden fruit, before shame, before good and evil, before the birth of ego. Adam and Eve lived in the Garden of Eden. Most people believe Eden was a place lost long ago. But what if Eden was never a place? What if it was a state of consciousness? The book of Genesis tells us that Adam and Eve were naked, yet they felt no shame. Why? Because they were not looking at reality through judgment. There was no beautiful or ugly, no right or wrong, no me and other, no stories created by the mind. A flower was simply a flower. A river was simply a river. Life was simply life. There was no separation between the observer and the observed. No division, no distance, only pure presence. In Buddhism, this is sometimes called suchness, seeing reality exactly as it is, without adding anything, without taking anything away, without labels, without resistance, without attachment. The Garden of Eden was not merely a place filled with trees and animals. It was a state in which consciousness had not yet divided itself, a state of harmony, a state of unity, a state of complete alignment with the source. The river flowing through Eden may symbolize more than water. It may represent the eternal flow of life itself, the flow of awareness, the flow of being. Everything was already whole. Nothing needed fixing. Nothing needed becoming. Nothing needed to be somewhere else. At the center of the garden stood the tree of life, a symbol of eternal existence, a symbol of awareness itself, a life that neither begins nor ends, neither comes nor goes. Perhaps the Garden of Eden was never truly lost. Perhaps only our ability to recognize it was forgotten. Perhaps Eden is not a destination after death, but a living reality available in this very moment, hidden behind every thought, hidden behind every story, hidden behind every mask of the ego. And perhaps the spiritual journey is not about finding something new. It is about remembering what has never left us, remembering the garden within, remembering awareness, remembering the source. Genesis chapter 3. The fall of consciousness and the birth of separation. Once there was only presence, only harmony, only the silent flow of life. Then came the serpent. For centuries, many believed the serpent was evil, a deceiver, a destroyer. But what if the serpent symbolizes something else? What if it represents the birth of thought itself, the moment consciousness turned away from direct experience and began to interpret reality? The serpent whispers, "You shall be as gods, knowing good and evil." And suddenly, the human mind divides what was once whole. Good and evil, right and wrong, pure and impure, self and other. The forbidden fruit may not have been an ordinary fruit at all. It may symbolize identification with thought. The moment awareness becomes entangled in concepts, the moment we stop experiencing reality and start living inside mental stories. Genesis says that after eating the fruit, Adam and Eve realized they were naked. Why only then? Their bodies had not changed. Reality had not changed. Only perception had changed. Judgment had appeared. Comparison had appeared. Self-consciousness had appeared. For the first time, humanity began seeing itself as separate, separate from nature, separate from God, separate from life itself. And with separation came fear, the fear of loss, the fear of death, the fear of not being enough, the fear of being alone. When God asks, "Where are you?" Perhaps this is not a question of location. Perhaps it is the eternal question asked by awareness itself. Where are you? Lost in thought, lost in identity, lost in the dream of separation. Adam replies, "I was afraid." This is the first appearance of fear in the biblical story, and fear is always born from separation. The moment we believe we are separate from the whole, fear becomes inevitable. Then comes the exile from Eden. But perhaps humanity was never truly expelled. Perhaps Eden simply became hidden behind the veil of the mind. The gates of paradise were not locked, they were forgotten, and thus begins the great spiritual journey, the journey of every seeker, the journey of every soul, the journey back through illusion, back through fear, back through separation, until one day, awareness remembers itself, and the garden is found again, not in another world, not after death, but here, now, within. The return to Eden is the return to our original nature, the return to presence, the return to the source.